I'm sure all of you are familiar with text editors, but have you ever wondered how they work? To an outsider, it looks like wizardry. But the truth is, it's just a bunch of code writing a bunch of code. This type of software has a name, WYSIWYG. It stands for what you see is what you get, and it's used to describe a program that allows you to edit the appearance of something. A text editor seemed like a simple project, so I decided to make one myself but for websites. However, it won't be a pre-made text editor like the ones you see on the internet. Instead, it will be an API that allows others to build their own. For those who care, here are the technologies I'm going to be using. Now, how does the API work? All text editors need a text box, so my class will require the developer to give it the ID of the element that will become the text box. The element must be a div and not a text area, because the latter doesn't allow HTML to be put inside it. After the instance is created, the dev can then choose which feature they want to integrate, but first they must make the UI for it and give it an event. Inside the event handler is where the dev implements the feature. Note that the feature only works when there's a selection in the text box. Are you confused? Good. Behind the scenes, the text editor wraps the selection in the appropriate HTML. That's the general idea behind styling. However, it's not as straightforward. You see, in websites, styles are applied using CSS, and they're typically mixed together. This is very difficult to work with if different combinations are used, so to make styling easier to implement, I decided to give each style its own element. They will be nested together to achieve the same effect as normal CSS, and all I have to worry about is adding them, deleting them, and moving them around. There are syntax rules I have to follow with this approach. For example, a color element cannot be inside of an underline or strike-through element. Otherwise, certain browsers won't display the mix correctly. The first two styles I'm going to implement are formats and colors, because if I figure out how to make them work together, implementing text size and typefaces will be a piece of cake. This is because text size and typeface elements use the same HTML tag as the color element. Okay, so here's the user interface I made for testing. Remember, any UI can work with my text editor as long as the methods are used properly. As you can see, I can now apply formats and colors to caret and range selections. I won't bother explaining the code because it will make this video too long and even more confusing. All you need to know is that format elements are kept inside of color elements, and that there's a lot of rearranging happening behind the scenes whenever a style is applied or changed. Before I move on to the next two styles, I just want to point out the unique property of formats, which is that they can be applied and removed. However, in order to remove a format, the text editor needs to know which ones are active. That's why I implemented a mechanism that detects which styles are present in a selection. It updates an object in the background that keeps track of the styles present in the current selection. The formatting method uses this object to decide whether to apply or remove formats. Now that I've finished implementing formats and colors, I can move on to text size and typefaces. Remember, their elements are similar to the color elements, so they will share the same underlying logic. This saves me a lot of time because I can just copy and paste my helper functions for colors, which I have in one file, into two new files and then rename the functions and variables. Even though I was repeating code, I wanted to follow the separation of concerns design principle. After doing all of that, I created the API methods for applying text size and typefaces to selections. I wanted my editor to support custom fonts, so I made the typeface method accept a list of font names. By doing this, I'm effectively decoupling the text editor from whatever method the developer uses to import fonts. The method doesn't care if a font in the list exists or not, because behind the scenes, it uses CSS to apply them. CSS should have access to all the fonts, even the ones downloaded from the internet, provided the developer imported them properly. At this point, I could probably consider my text editor finished, but I thought to myself, can I really call it an editor without these guys, the unsung heroes? They're not difficult to implement, so I figured why not. I started with undo and redo. Undo and redo works by switching between states. You can think of it like loading different save files. For a text editor, this means saving the HTML inside the text box each time a change is made, and allowing the user to switch between these different HTML states. The HTML has to be compressed when saving, for space efficiency, and decompressed when reverting changes. This can be easily achieved with a string compression library. I went ahead and wrote all the code for this, and here's the result. The last three features need no introduction. In text editors, copying requires not just saving the selected text, but also its styles. I created an object for this which acts like a clipboard. The copying method grabs the selected text and all the style elements it's encased in and stores them in the object. Cutting does the same thing, except it deletes the selected text afterwards. For pasting, the selected text is reconstructed and inserted at the new position. Reconstruction involves wrapping the pasted text with its original styles. Just like last time, the source code for the free version of this project is on my GitHub. Note that it only has formatting and colors, and it has some bugs that I fixed in the premium version. The premium version has all the features, and it will be available on my website, which is still in development by the way. Don't worry, once it's up I will make an announcement on my channel, so be sure to subscribe. Also, please leave a like.